What's up, everyone? It's Shaletta. I'm here getting a phone for one of my newly minted teenagers with Xfinity Mobile. They've got great options, affordable plans, and solid coverage that works for our whole family. With Xfinity Mobile, my daughter can stay connected with me wherever she goes. And did you know when you sign up, you can get an extra phone line free for a full year? Switch to Xfinity Mobile today for more savings, more smiles, and more ways to stay connected.
In Minnesota, we pride ourselves on our nation-leading voter turnout and safe, secure elections. Elections allow us to make our voices heard and stand up for the communities and issues we care about. To exercise your right to vote, first make sure that you are registered to vote. After registering to vote, make a plan to vote on or before Election Day, Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Learn about how to register to vote, cast your ballot, find your polling place, and more by visiting mnvotes.org.
Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire and demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Diversity Dude podcast. I'm your host, Lambert Fisher, marriage and family therapist, award-winning author, and national speaker on the topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. And for those of you who are interested in even more positive and encouraging tips and strategies beyond what I share in podcasts like this, then feel free to check out my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, nationally recognized for the unique way in which it addresses the often difficult topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. Designed for more than just therapists, if you're a helping professional in any way, Diversity in Clinical Practice can help you meet the greatest variety of cultural needs possible for those whom you serve. And it's available in paper and audiobook versions for your convenience. And if you haven't heard it yet, I invite you to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone, where I offer a positive and practical perspective on how to navigate unintentional offenses in daily life. To date, it's been viewed over 500,000 times. Check it out for yourself. And if you're encouraged by it as well, share it with a friend. And whether it be through my one-on-one relationship building efforts as a therapist or my informing and empowering efforts as an author speaker, know that my personal mission is to do my part to improve the world one strengthened relationship at a time. So, today I want to share with you an encouraging perspective on a healthy response to prejudice in advertising. Now, if you haven't heard it yet, Heinz, the food company known for several popular condiments such as ketchup, mustard, mayo, and even baked beans, has issued an apology after backlash stemming from one of its ads being displayed on the walls of London's tube or train stations. The ad is for one of Heinz's new family-sized pasta sauces and depicts a woman eating the sauce while wearing a bride's dress. Also at the table beside her are who appear to be the bride and groom's parents. And this is where things get interesting. For while many appreciate that the black bride and white groom reflected an interracial couple, there are also a white mother and father at the table, presumably the white groom's parents, but also only a black mother at the table without a black father counterpart. Hence the dilemma. Was this an oversight? A minor photographic limitation in space at the table, or was this yet another occurrence of biases and assumptions about the prevalent absent black father unnecessarily being included in a transportation ad for pasta sauce? Regardless of the motivation, the uproar has been significant, with many expressing that the ad negatively impacted them in many ways. Trying to stem the bleeding before it gets too significant out of hand, Heinz offered an apology, saying, "We always appreciate members of the public perspective on our campaigns. We understand how this ad could have unintentionally perpetuated negative stereotypes. We extend our deepest apologies and will continue to listen, learn, and improve to avoid this happening again in the future." Now, as you and many others prepare to store this experience somewhere in your mind with implications for how you will proceed in life moving forward in some way, I'd like to offer a few considerations for how you might go about hearing and processing situations like this in a healthy way, and in a way that you can help make decisions, healthy decisions moving forward, whether that be relational decisions, purchasing decisions, business decisions, or even social media decisions, just as you would about expressing anything to others on any given day, on any given topic. Consideration number one, remember that ignorance is real. Why do I start here? Well, because when seeing and hearing of advertisements like this, there are two main assumptions that are often made. The first is that the creators of this ad knew exactly what they were doing. They made certain prejudiced assumptions about Black families and sought to depict those prejudices in an ad with little to no care or worse, blatant disregard for the message it would send to the people it would impact. And the second assumption is that the creators of this ad were clueless and limited in their cultural awareness, so much so that it never occurred to them that the absence of the Black father would be seen as a glaring omission with additional message implications due to the history of such omissions previously done with explicit intent. Now, each of these prevailing choices has its pros and cons, but either way, they're still assumptions. We don't know which is which. We can't read minds, which is why we shouldn't prematurely or unhealthily respond in extreme ways based on either assumption possibility. It will be unhealthy to assume the best, assuming no harm was intended, and just move on, trusting that the oversight won't happen again. This would be unhealthy because even if it was based on ignorance or lack of genuine knowledge, then when it is brushed under the rug, that same lack of knowledge will continue to contribute to additional harm in the future. Similarly, it will be unhealthy to assume the worst and charge in head first, demanding the firing of obviously racist leaders or demanding the closing of the company due to racist behaviors, especially if this was not indeed the contributing factor. Now, let me be clear. While I like to extend grace where appropriate, I'm also a fan of extending accountability and consequences. The thing is, I find little benefit in accountability for punishment's sake, and more benefit in accountability for learning and improvement's sake. How can you determine the difference? Well, I found the best results when I lead with the ignorance consideration, not assumption, and inform people of the impact they have on others. This way, if they express concern for how their actions were perceived and desire to behave and communicate in a way that is more considerate of others, then I stay on the course of information and continue to offer whatever I can to help them improve and hope that they use it. If they focus more on defending their right to continue to behave or communicate in a certain way, despite the awareness of the negative impact they're having on others, then accountability in the form of consequences would not be premature, it'd be actually quite appropriate. This would be them communicating that consequences are the only thing that motivates them, and I will moving forward, communicating in a language they respond to. Not even out of spite, though. All the while, hoping that the abundance of consequences would spark genuine motivation for change and consideration of others. But that would be up to them. Which leads me to consideration number two. Ignorance must be informed. As I mentioned, I like to lead with ignorance until I have evidence to the contrary. And believe me, if there's evidence to the contrary, I usually don't have to wait long to find it and for it to reveal itself. In the meantime, there is value in informing ignorance. Informing ignorance need not be done from a top-down, know-it-all perspective, as if you know everything that there is to know and someone else should feel ashamed for not knowing. For one, this promotes more shame than growth. And two, no one knows everything. In consideration for the reality that we will all find ourselves in a position of ignorance at some point, we can extend ignorance grace to anyone you lead, anyone in a position of power over you, or even peers, as a gift which they can choose to use or not use for the benefit of as many as possible. Now, let me be clear. If you are the hurt person on the receiving end of someone else's ignorance, it is not, I repeat, it is not your responsibility to teach others everything they need to know. However, in whatever way it's safe to you, it can be in your best interest to let someone know at least how they hurt you, so that in their future learning and ignorance reducing efforts, they can start with avoiding re injuring you in that same way, then hopefully build upon it to reduce making that same hurt to others on their own. Which leads me to consideration number three. Apologies are good, but apologies matter more when they're followed by action. What do I mean? Well, too often people act, other people respond negatively, and then apologies are given to appease those who reacted, and then they go back to business as usual. Again, it's not even always out of malicious or manipulative intent, as if the apology was fake or insincere. No, sometimes the apology is genuine, with someone saying, I'm sorry to hear that you were hurt by my actions. I hope that doesn't happen again. The problem with this type of apology is that it could be heard just as equally as, I'm sorry you were so sensitive that my reasonable actions got you upset. I hope that hearing my reasonable intentions help you to not react so negatively when I do it again in the future. You see, this type of apology, no matter how sincere the intentions may be, is unacceptable. When we learn of words or behaviors that hurt people, we must do whatever is within our power to reasonably modify our behavior to reduce repeating that negative impact. This kind of change is not always easy or quick to accomplish as much as we would like, but this is where the apology comes in. While it may take time for behavioral changes to occur, the apology lets the hurt person or persons know a few things. It sends a message that genuine care was behind the oversight rather than callous disregard. It sends a message that steps are being taken in front or behind the scenes to identify ways to learn more about the offense, as well as ways to avoid repeating that offense moving forward. And it sends a message that the verbal apology is just a sign of the outward, not secret, accountability, welcoming the shared expectation that something will change in the future. Look for it and call us on it if nothing ever changes. When it comes to the leaders at the Heinz company in particular, I'm not sure what their motivations are. I can be hopeful that they not only didn't knowingly send racially prejudiced messages, but that they also plan to actively work to reduce the likelihood of future incidents. One of the things I appreciate about the Diversity Dude podcast being on this particular podcast group is that the ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com partnership group partners with ad agencies like Kelly, Scott, Madison, and others to write, shoot, and produce their commercial campaigns geared toward communities of color. These advertising agencies hire us to provide culturally competent communication in their commercial content, that it won't, so much so that it won't offend people in those communities. For while we can all make intentional efforts to learn about the experiences of others, it can also be beneficial to partner with people in various communities, collaborate on knowledge, experiences, cautions, and more in order to ensure that the genuine messages you want to convey are heard in ways that the audience you're trying to communicate to receive it best. With all these considerations in mind and more, my hope for you is that you would do whatever is within your power to reduce the likelihood of bias and prejudice influences and culturally offensive messages being conveyed in your behaviors and actions. And when you see others stick their foot in their mouths, culturally speaking, being accused of cultural insensitivity at best and overt prejudices at worst, before assuming the worst, dismissing apologies and canceling leaders and companies alike, see what actions follow that apology. When apologies prove to be empty, placating promises, feel free to respond with accountability to hopefully spark healthy action. But when apologies lead to change, cautiously consider allowing trust to build at your own pace, as it is consistent with the consistency of that change. This mutual consideration paves the way for even more mutually considerate, healthy interactions, cross-cultural openness to learn, and less need to work hard to do so moving forward. And with that, I'll say thanks again for tuning in to today's Diversity Dude podcast. If you have any pressing diversity-related questions that you'd like me to address in an upcoming podcast, or if your organization is in need of a positive and shame-free guest speaker or training on this often sensitive topic, then feel free to reach out to me directly at www.diversitymadesimple.com. And if you know of anyone else who can benefit from a positive and encouraging perspective on this often sensitive topic of diversity, feel free to send them a link to this podcast so they can be encouraged as well, or share with them my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, available at Amazon.com. And don't forget to visit TED.com and check out my talk on what to do when you offend someone. I hope it inspires you and that you share it with someone else so they can be inspired as well. And as usual, I look forward to addressing as many topics as possible in future podcasts to help you improve as many relationships as possible, at work, at home, and in your community. And as always, remember this: you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.
Tune in each week and find out how to demand and implement diversity at your job. To hear more, check out previous Diversity Dude shows on ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
Mark your calendar for October 17th. That's Open House Day at Summit Academy OIC. And that's where your next career begins. In just 20 weeks, Summit Academy can prepare you to be a medical administrative assistant, IT specialist, carpenter, electrician, or financial services professional. These are good paying jobs in high demand in the Twin Cities. Summit Academy will not only prepare you for a job with advancement opportunities, they'll help you connect with employers and hiring managers. That's right, Summit Academy has a list of local employer partners ready and eager to hire Summit graduates. At the open house, you'll meet Summit instructors and staff. These incredible people will guide you through the entire process, from application to graduation. And if you're looking to earn your GED, Summit can help with that. Come to Summit Academy's open house, located at 935 Olson Memorial Highway in North Minneapolis. Find out more at saoic.org. And we'll see you October 17th from 3 to 5 p.m.
COVID-19 cases are on the rise, and peak flu season is almost here. Save time and get the updated COVID-19 vaccine and your flu shot at the same time at Hy-Vee. Schedule your updated COVID-19 vaccine and flu shot online today, or just stop by any Hy-Vee pharmacy whenever it's convenient for you. No appointment necessary. Plus, when you get your flu shot at Hy-Vee, earn a 20-cent fuel saver. Your Hy-Vee pharmacy is here to help you and your family stay healthy.
Are you the parent or guardian of an adult with autism? If your loved one has no restrictions through court order, then they are eligible to vote. And you can assist them in many ways. Some citizens with autism don't like unfamiliar places and activities. These voters might prefer to cast their ballot at an early voting center. Leading up to Election Day, these early voting centers are less busy and less likely to require waiting. Early voting centers are open all over Minnesota, and you can vote there right now. Or you can request an absentee ballot to vote by mail. That's right. Eligible voters can cast their ballots without ever leaving home. On Election Day, curbside voting is another option to make voting easy and comfortable. Election judges will bring a ballot directly to the vehicle with the person with a disability. Make a plan to support and assist your loved one with autism this election season, so they can participate and exercise their precious right to vote. You can find out more at mmvotes.gov. That's mmvotes.gov.